show.
Welcome to episode 166 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The best time of year in hockey has arrived. It's the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and oh baby, we got the Battle of Ontario flashback to the late 90s, early 2000s when the Leafs dummied the Senators in the first round every year. Will we see a repeat of that in 2025? We are going to give a full breakdown of Leafs versus Senators, and then we are going to run through the other 7 first-round series in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we are also going to give out our Stanley Cup picks. I promise you want to stay tuned to the very end. This might be the best episode of the entire season. But before we get into all that, it is time to officially welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno, I am doing absolutely fantastic. We have a long weekend. We have playoff hockey starting on Saturday night. Oh, is this better than Masters weekend, Bruno? I don't know. No work and chocolate and nice dinners and hockey. It doesn't get much better than
Masters weekend, I will admit. Even I will admit.
Pretty nice. Let me ask you, Bruno, what is Anthony Bruno's favorite chocolate?
Oh, wow. My favorite chocolate. It's actually O. Henry.
O. Henry.
O. Okay. Henry, like slam dunk, my favorite chocolate bar.
With a bullet, O. Henry. Okay. All right.
Why? Where do you stand on that?
In terms of like chocolate bars, it's tough for me to not say Snickers. Like Snickers is kind of like the GOAT. It's got it all. But I will say, it being Easter, and I'm going to sound like a dinosaur here, like they're not as good as they used to be, but Cadbury cream eggs, like when I was a child, my parents literally had to hide the Cadbury cream eggs because I would just like sit there and wolf them. And they're like, no, you can't do that. You'll get sick. So, but yeah, Cadbury cream eggs are decent. The Cadbury mini eggs, it seems like they put this shit on everything though now. Tim Hortons donuts and I don't know. It's kind of getting out of hand.
Lepore's diet. Pasta, pizza, and Cadbury cream eggs.
Cadbury cream eggs.
That's it. No vegetables, no nothing. Just those 3.
Oh, sorry. I really do like Toblerone. I forgot about that one.
Okay.
Toblerone's a boss.
I can get on board with that. But yeah, for sure, O. Henry is the GOAT to me in terms of chocolate bars. But the mini eggs, I will devour those things around this time of year. So the mini eggs, I do absolute damage on those.
Dangerous.
But let's dig into the hockey. Lepore.
Let's
chocolate and hockey podcast today.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about the Battle of Ontario. I am so fired up for this. We are both obviously old enough to remember the previous Battle of Ontario's running from 1999 to 2004. The Leafs knocked out the Senators 4 times in a 5-year span in the first round. This is going to be awesome. So the Leafs head into this series as a pretty big favorite. Like if you look at the betting odds right now.
I haven't checked them yet, actually.
What's your guess for how big the Leafs are favored right now?
Minus 200.
Wow, you almost nailed it. The Leafs are minus 194 at Pinnacle right now.
Yeah.
So they obviously should win this series. Lepore, it's one of the few series during this 9-year run in the Matthews, Marner, and Nylander era where they have been sizable favorites. There's been plenty of series where they have been underdogs, close 50-50. To a coin flip, especially in those series against Boston and Tampa recently. But this is one of those series, kind of like the Montreal series, kind of like the Columbus series. They gotta win this thing, Lepore. So what's your take heading into the Battle of Ontario?
Yeah, it's funny you using the odds to say, okay, Toronto's essentially minus 200. They should win this series. I checked my app today for the futures to win the cup. And the particular app I was using has the Leafs with the 3rd best odds to win the cup. They have them at 10-1 and they have them as the best team in the East. Best odds in the East. It was Colorado number 1 at like 6.5-1. And then I think Vegas at like 8 or 9-1. But to the point, so the Leafs are 10-1 and Ottawa's 40-1. So Let's fucking do this, boys. But I'm having like deja vu's, Bruno, of like the anxiety and the nerves that stream through a Leafs fan's body when the Sens and the Leafs are playing. When I say a Leafs, I mean a Leafs fan who lives in Ottawa, because it's a different animal here. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. We'd be lying if we said that it doesn't sometimes bring out the worst in people when these two teams are playing in the playoffs. There's been drama in the city in the past and this and that. I do like, it's funny because as a Leafs fan, we joke all the time about how like we're always anxious and nervous and thinking the worst about the team. So I do try to sit back and be as objective as possible. Almost like don't be a Leaf fan. Like I'll say to myself, if I was a Vancouver Canucks fan who lived on the other side of the country, how would I view this series? Okay. And I look at it and Toronto has to win. Toronto has to win. And my reasoning for this is, and I think across the board, it's pretty objective. Okay. Which team has home ice advantage? Toronto. Which team has bigger game breakers? Toronto. Which team has more experience? And I think that's the most important thing. Toronto. And furthermore, and kind of tied with the experience, is in the playoffs, it's an awareness of that line. The intensity level is through the roof. The buzz is through the roof. The crowd is crazy. So you have to keep your emotions and adrenaline in check. And that's where I think the experience really comes into play. It's all about playing to that line. And we look back at those series against Boston in the early Matthews Marner era. That's why we lost, because Boston knew that line of what they could do and what they could get away with to irritate us. And Kadri got suspended twice because of it, but they were just so good at flirting with that line without going over. And I think the Leafs, because of their experience, are better suited for that. I mean, the Sens are new to the dance, and like I like that team a lot. I really do, top to bottom. Travis Green, man, has done an unbelievable job with that team. They have Allmark. And that's the one thing. But for some reason, it is scary. It is scary. But you know what? And maybe the playoffs will go a completely different way. The Leafs by far led the league in games won when they were outshot. Like, so I don't feel like, I feel like it's kind of going to be more of the same. Like, it's weird when you watch Toronto this year. Like, they're getting outplayed. They're getting outshot. Their goalie's playing well.
They lose the 5-on-5 battle a lot.
Well, but you just kind of know they're going to win. Like, you're just watching it and almost you're not nervous. And that's the goaltending now. And that's a point I'll make. Our goaltending. I'm not going to say Stolarz is better than Allmark. Stolarz had an unbelievable year. Allmark's more of a vet. He has a Vezina trophy. But we've all seen the posts of Stolarz recent games. Like, it's absolutely, he's going nuclear right now. It's video game shit. But I said to my buddy today, I was like, if we had Samsonov in this series, I'd bet against us. Like, that's how much Stolarz calms me down. And that anxiety that we always have when the other team has the puck in our end, now it's kind of eliminated. So putting the hat on of, like I said, someone who lives on the other side of the country, looking at this series, I think Toronto has to win. I think not picking Toronto, and that's not to say 1,000% slam dunk they're going to win, but I think not picking Toronto is just going based on emotion and like an emotional bias. And it's funny because that would more come from Leafs fans rather than Sens fans, probably. So yeah, we got to win, Bruno. Simple as that. You nailed it. This is not Tampa. This is not Boston. We are the Atlantic Division champions, and we are playing a wild card team, a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in an eternity. All their core players, with the exception of maybe Giroux, if you want to even still call him a core player, have never been to the playoffs. I guess Allmark has, but they got to do it. Got to do it.
How many games?
6.
Leafs in 6.
Ottawa will be annoying, and as I always say, I mean that as a compliment. Ottawa will be the pesky Sens, as they call them in this city. They'll be annoying about it. But I say Leafs win game 6 in Ottawa, and it's a sea of blue at the CTC.
The Leafs have to win this series, Lepore. There's just no other way around it. Like, we have been saying this every year. I feel like we sound like a broken record. Like, oh, they got to win this series or else, we're going to
Yeah.
blow up the team. But even me as a Leaf fan, and we've been doing this podcast now for like 4 or 5 years, this is where I draw the line in the sand too. Like, shit is not going to continue if they lose in the first round again. Atlantic Division champions, massive favorites, playing a Senators team that is making its first playoff appearance in 8 years. Brady Tkachuk's health is still up in the air. I know he's drawing back into the lineup for the Senators season finale, but how healthy is he? Is he close to 100%? That is such a huge factor in this series. If Brady Tkachuk is not his normal self, I don't think the Senators have a hope in hell of winning this series. I don't care how they've been playing without him in the lineup. So when you factor in all of those things, and you talked about it, the Leafs have more game breakers. Stolarz has been incredible this year, led the league in save percentage, only played 34 games, but even when you look at the underlying numbers like goals saved above expected, he's been outstanding. The Leafs, since the Four Nations, have been one of the best teams in the NHL, 18-6-2 since the Four Nations, second best record in the league in that span, third in goals per game since the Four Nations, fourth ranked power play since the Four Nations. Like, they are just peaking at the perfect time. Because for me, the thing that has frustrated me so much about this Leafs team, but I've finally turned the corner on it, is that at 5-on-5, they have not been good this year, Lepore. Like, expected goals, shot attempts at 5-on-5, like, it just seems like every night they lose the battle in those categories. But it doesn't matter, because when you look at the actual goals at 5-on-5 and you look at the end result, they always come out on the right side of it. And mostly because of their goaltending and because they have finally turned things up offensively. Or, the first half of the season, this team was not that good offensively. But I said what the numbers are since the Four Nations break. They are third in goals per game since the Four Nations break. And here's another thing. One of the biggest like red flags to me for a playoff team is when they have a negative goal differential at 5-on-5. The Ottawa Senators this year, Lepore, -18 at 5-on-5.
Ooh, where does that rank in the league? Do you have that?
It's not good. I don't have the exact ranking.
It's not too bad,
but it's like one of the worst among all 16 playoff teams.
I'm sure. And like you mentioned the 5-on-5 thing, and funny because I looked it up yesterday. And again, how strange it is. So Ottawa's numbers are good. Ottawa's underlying numbers are good 5-on-5. So Stutz, I forget what the number is, but Stutz leads the Sens in 5-on-5 points. He'd be sixth on Toronto.
Yeah, like the Sens.
That's the gap. Like, man. And I know Matthews, Marner, and Ice kind of, it all happens together and they get a lot of points off each other. But just to say 5-on-5, and I'll say this, and this is where Sens fans are going to throw shit at me. Ottawa led the league in power play opportunities, did they not? I know for a big chunk of the season they were ahead, and it was pretty comfortably ahead. It's not going to happen in the playoffs. You're not going to get 5 power plays, right? And again, that comes back to the experience thing and knowing what the line is. Where we'd play these other teams like Florida and Boston. You look at the end of the game, it was always like power plays 1 or 2. Like, I remember someone posted numbers once. When Florida beat us in the second round, they were the worst team in the league when it came to taking penalties in the regular season. I think they were taking like an average of 4.
And then they took like barely any penalties.
And they literally got cut in half or less against Toronto. And that's just how it is. Like, it's not going to happen. And that's not Ottawa's fault. It's a compliment to them that they're really good on the power play. But it just goes back to, like, you can't rely on that. And we saw that from Edmonton, too, 2 years ago. I remember when they played Vegas. They're just like a power play machine. It's like, you're not going to win the Stanley Cup or beat good teams just relying on your power play. And that's not to say guys on Ottawa can't turn it on 5-on-5. And they've been good with their underlying numbers all season. But I think that is a huge factor. And I like how you brought that up.
Yeah. And listen, like the Senators, even their 5-on-5 numbers, they've kind of tailed off as the season has gone on. So I would say like neither the Leafs or the Senators are that good at 5-on-5, especially not the Leafs. But again, when you look at the Leafs' actual numbers, so not just the expected numbers that I like to reference a lot at 5-on-5, the Leafs' actual numbers at 5-on-5, when you look at their goal differential is really good. It's actually one of the best in the league. How long can they rely on Stolarz being a brick wall and like, getting timely goal scoring from all their stars? That remains to be seen. Like, is it going to result in a deep playoff run? We'll see. And maybe we'll get into that when we get into like our Stanley Cup matchups and picks. But I think it's more than enough to get through this series. And Lepore, doesn't it just feel like this team, like the stars, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, like they got to be talking to themselves, like, boys, if we don't get through this series,
yeah, the party's over.
What the fuck?
The party's over.
They gotta get through this series, man. There's just absolutely no excuse this time around. And Lepore, they're all healthy. Last year, that surprise out of nowhere, Nylander, concussion, Matthews, injury in the middle of the first round, Joseph Woll injured before game 7. Let's hope there's none of that bullshit. It looks like they're all fully healthy, which is very refreshing for once. So I am also on Leafs in 6. If they don't get it done, I will have no words. It's the end of an era, and it'll be very disappointing. So I think they're going to find a way to win this series.
They were talking about it on TSN a few weeks ago because this looked like a real possibility at the time. And it was sort of agreed among the panel that if this team loses to Ottawa, this would be the most embarrassing of all their playoff losses, like even more than Montreal, because of, I guess, the age and veteranship of the team and how they've been around, how Ottawa hasn't been in the playoffs for so long. Yeah, like the fact that we're debating it sucks, but here we are. And I guess, I don't know, I guess it's only really been the Montreal series, because sometimes too with Columbus, people always say, oh my God, when they lost to Columbus, that Columbus team was a pretty good fucking team. And they had goaltending
very
at the time. Very
underrated squad.
Like, I think too, at that point in the season, we were like tied on points with them or had one more.
Yeah,
it wasn't
like
very
really close. And the Leafs weren't even that good that season.
No.
They were kind of having like an okay season.
Yeah.
Again, no excuse still. They should have got through that series, but it wasn't like they were massive favorites like they are in this series.
Yeah. I just think it's that. There's no excuses. That's it. Whatever, bad luck. Like, I don't care anymore. It's not about that. It's just they gotta win. Let's get through this.
All right, Leafs in 6, baby. Let's go.
Lock it in.
It's time for a quick break for a word from Manscaped. Did you know that one man every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer? In fact, it's the most common form of cancer among men ages 15 to 35. April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, and Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring you some amazing products, including the TCS Ball Hero Bundle, including the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra TCS Special Edition and Special Edition TCS Boxers 2.0, some beautiful purple boxers. So remember to use our exclusive code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Lepore, these are some amazing products.
Yeah, cancer has affected many of us, even if it's not specifically testicular cancer. So why not show that you care, man? Rock some purple boxer shorts and the new lawnmower and get going at it. Show that, you care about the fight against cancer, and hopefully we can find a cure for these cancers one day. But do your thing, throw those items in your cart. Like we say every week, GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
It's an amazing cause. Manscaped doing a great job with these really sweet looking products. So like I said, use our exclusive code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That is code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. I promise you will not be disappointed. All right, moving on to the next series in the Eastern Conference playoffs. We're going to stay in the Atlantic Division. It's the Battle of Florida, the Lightning and Panthers. How do you feel about this series? Because I feel very strongly about one team, but I'll let you go first.
Of course I got to go first. You feel very strongly about one team with these two teams? Whew. Because I don't know if you're kind of going to go the way I think you're going to go, or it's like the other way. But I'm excited for this series. It's going to be great. Two loaded teams, two teams that have won before. You got two goalies. It's going to be awesome. Two coaches that I really like. It's going to be really good entertainment. People, I think everyone's expecting this series. I mean, expecting or wouldn't be surprised if this series goes all the way, goes to game 7 because of the pedigree of these two teams. But it's one of those where my brain is saying Tampa, but my gut is saying Florida, and Florida will find a way to get it done. I'm having a hard time picking someone in this series, Bruno. I really am. I'll say Florida.
Thought you were going to go with your brain because that's what I'm doing. I'm on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you know what? I said I feel very strongly about them. Maybe that's a little bit too strong.
Yeah.
But I just think when you look at this series objectively, it's kind of like what you said with the Leafs. Like if I was a Canucks fan looking at Leafs versus Senators, who would I pick to win the series? When I dig into this series and I look at everything that Florida is dealing with, it's very hard for me to pick against Tampa. And I will admit, Tampa are actually slight underdogs in this series, which if you're a betting person, I think it's pretty good value right now. Like, listen,
even with home ice, they're an underdog. Wow.
Yeah, they're slight dogs in this series. I think at full health, all systems go, the East would run through Florida. But the fact of the matter is right now is that they're just not at full health, and it's not all systems go. Matthew Tkachuk has not played since the Four Nations. He talked on Wednesday, and he made like some very like discouraging comments. If you're a Panthers fan, he goes, "I've really only been on the ice for a couple days with like legit skates, so I'm just trying to peak sometime around game 1. So I'm looking forward to it." End quote. That does not seem like a guy who's fully healthy, and just like his brother, I think they're so important to the success of their teams. So you have this Tkachuk situation. Ekblad is out the first 2 games because he still has to serve the end of his PED suspension. The Panthers, since the Four Nations, have an even goal differential. Like
they've been bad.
They have not been dialed in. The team is not at full strength. They haven't had a chance to gel. Like they bring in Seth Jones and Brad Marchand at the deadline, but Ekblad's been out of the lineup. Kachuk's been out of the lineup. There's been all this shuffling.
Barkov
has been a little bit banged up. So you would think if there's any team who could figure this out, it's probably the team that's been to back-to-back cup finals and are the reigning champions. But I just think something's a little bit off. And the Lightning have been dialed in this year. They have the second best or the best goal differential in the Eastern Conference this year by far. Vasilevsky has had an amazing bounce back season. Second best goalie in the league this year behind Hellebuck. Kucherov, another amazing season. Go down the list. They have a plenty of weapons. Jake Gensel replacing Steven Stamkos. They do have an injury to Oliver Bjorkstrand, a little bit of a minor injury. But I really like the Lightning. Now, I said I feel very strongly, but I'm going to say the Lightning get it done in 7 games.
7 games. Wow, nice. I'll say Florida game 6 in overtime.
All right. I love it. We're on opposite sides of the fence. Nice. Okay, Lepore, let's move on. This might be one of my favorite series of the entire first round. It is the Washington Capitals and
Carolina, New Jersey.
No, I don't even want to talk about that series.
Yeah, we know that.
Capitals, Habs. Who's winning, Lepore?
It's again. It's funny again, like how I said before about trying to stay away from your surroundings and making a judgment that's completely objective, because almost I think I had the opposite thing with Montreal, whereas how like the Leafs, I always think they're going to underachieve, and with Montreal, I always think they're going to overachieve. So I'm going to say Montreal puts up a good fight. Like I'll say it. I want to pick Montreal. There's this thing in me that's like Montreal in 7. They'll grind it out, win game 6 at home, and then win a 2-0 game on the road just to hang on. And that's a wrap. But how I went with my gut with the Battle of Florida, I got to go with my brain. I'll say Washington in 6 games.
Okay. I think that's very logical. Like, I think the Capitals are a better team. However, I will actually be putting a bet on the Montreal Canadiens to win this
What's that
series.
line? What's that line?
So right now, and it's been kind of, shifting around over the course of the last like 24 hours. Right now, they're plus 208 to win the series. So a little over 2-1.
Think about that. Washington had the best record. I guess like what's the gap? I don't know. Is it weird that Washington had the best record in the East? They're playing Montreal and they're essentially, I guess like a minus 200 or whatever they would be with that. Which essentially it's the same bet as Toronto, Ottawa. Is that strange? I don't know.
I think there's a little bit of value here on the Habs, basically because of how they've been playing since the Four Nations. I know I keep bringing this up, but I that's kind of like I think it's a perfect point to kind of like judge a lot of these teams because like it was a long break. Teams were able to reset. Then you had the trade deadline. So I've been looking at a lot of these trends since the Four Nations. The Habs have been really good, man. 15-6-2, or sorry, 15-5-6. My apologies, since the Four Nations, plus 13 goal differential. You know what's funny, Lepore? We forget that Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki have played in a Stanley Cup final. Like
Yes.
when you think about this Habs team, you're like, oh my God, this young upstart team, Lane Hudson, they bring in Ivan Demidov, who the Habs fan base is going crazy over. It's like, oh my God, first taste of the playoffs in a while. And then we forget, holy shit, Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield played in the Stanley Cup final in 2021. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying they're going to win the series. I just think that there's a little bit of value if you're looking to bet on Montreal. I legitimately think they could upset the Caps
Me
here.
too. Me
And
too.
and
I
you
will
know
not be
what?
surprised.
I'm gonna say they win the series. You know what? This is gonna sound crazy. I'm gonna say the Habs win in six.
At home in
They're
Montreal.
gonna win at home at the Bell Center. That's another factor, man. The Bell Center in the playoffs is gonna be so fucking electric.
Yeah.
Give me the Habs in six. Sounds
Fuck.
insane.
Fuck. Awesome.
All right. Let's move on to what might be the most boring first round matchup. Lepore, I don't even think I'm going to watch a single second of this series because, quite frankly, I don't really give a shit about either of these teams. I know that sounds kind of harsh. We got the Hurricanes taking on the New Jersey Devils. First up, do you care about this series?
Do I care? I
You
mean,
love hockey, so you're going to watch every single
yeah,
one.
I'm gonna watch it if I can. If they're not, I mean, if that's the game that's on, that's the game that's on. Um, it is a dull series. Like not having Jack Hughes around really puts a damper on it. Um, but it's just at this point, I think it's just two teams that are good, but everyone knows they're not good enough to do real damage. But it'd be interesting to see if Montreal beats Washington. Like now you're getting into something that could be a little fun. But in terms of a prediction in this series, New Jersey has had a really like weird, twisty season where sometimes they look good, sometimes they look bad. They've dealt with injuries. I don't have a lot of faith. I just don't. I'm going to say Carolina wins this series in 5 games. And kind of remind what I'm thinking is like Carolina is going to remind everyone about them. Say like we're still the Carolina Hurricanes, we're still in this, and I think they're going to make a statement in the first round.
Yeah, I think the Canes get through this series pretty easily as well. I think it's the same song and dance with this Carolina team. If you look at their underlying numbers, they are the analytics darlings. They're so good at
Mm-hmm.
5-on-5. When you look at expected goals for percentage, Corsi percentage, like they always win the 5-on-5 battle, but it's the same song and dance with this team. They don't have the high end talent. The further they get in the playoffs, they're probably going to get exposed and they're going to lose to a team that has better players, more superstars. Um, so I think they get through this series. I think they probably, you know what? I'm going to say, did you say Hurricanes in five?
Mm-hmm.
I will go Hurricanes in six.
Okay.
Huge uphill battle for the Devils. No Jack Hughes. Dougie Hamilton just returned from an injury, but like, how healthy is he? They have been awful since the Four Nations, New Jersey. They actually have the worst record of all 16 playoff teams since the Four Nations break.
Not
Um,
surprising.
and the thing with the Hurricanes, they just win in the first round all the time. They have won a playoff series every year the past 6 years, at least one series. Um, but
Really?
then but then they're going to lose to someone who has more talent in the second or third round. Same
Yeah.
same thing with this team. All
Yeah.
right. Let's move on to the West. And we are going to
Let's go.
start with the Jets and Blues. So Lepore, before I throw to you, I gotta tell you some very interesting stats about the St. Louis Blues team.
Well, I know it's pretty impressive.
So the Jets obviously won the President's Trophy. Incredible season. Hellebuck is going to be nominated for the Hart Trophy, let alone the Vezina, which he's a lock to win. But this St. Louis Blues team, again, I've been going to this a lot. Since the Four Nations, they have the best record in the NHL, 19-4-3 since the Four Nations break. And did you know Robert Thomas is the leading scorer in the NHL since the Four Nations break?
What a player, man. Like, people talk about underrated players. He's an underrated player.
Oh, it's insane. This team has been absolutely dialed in over the last quarter of the season. You know what? I'm just going to go to it first, Lepore. I think the Blues actually upset the Jets. And I know maybe it's like getting ahead of myself and I'm buying into this narrative of like the hot underdog team against the team that won the President's Trophy. I don't give a shit about the curse. Like, it's not about that. I just think the way the Blues are playing, they are totally live to upset the Jets here, who have not been playing that great. And also, Nikolai Ehlers is week to week with a foot injury, so they lose Ehlers. Gabe Vilardi a little bit banged up. Man, give me the Blues in 6. Let's go.
Fuck. That's balls, Bruno. That's balls. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
I can't bet against my Jets. I just like that team too much, and I don't put a lot of significance in them down the stretch, kind of tailing off, because like experienced teams know it doesn't really matter and they know how to take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. But I do think it's going to be a really good series. I'm going to say the Winnipeg Jets win this series Game 7 in overtime.
It's electric. With
In
the
Winnipeg.
whiteout in Winnipeg. I love that. All right, let's move on to what might be the most intriguing first round matchup, although there was an injury that's kind of putting a damper on this. It's the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche. They are two of the Stanley Cup favorites. Doesn't matter what sportsbook you look at, they're like right at the top of the board. The one injury that's kind of putting a damper on this, Jason Robertson left Dallas's last game with a knee injury, so his postseason future is completely in doubt. Miro Heiskanen has already been ruled out for Game 1. Who knows when he's going to draw into this series? I love everything about Colorado, but before I get to my pick, Lepore, who do you think is going to win this series?
I said on recent shows I think Colorado is going to win the Stanley Cup, so be kind of weird of me to pick them to go out in the first round, even if it is against Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Avs. I'm going to say 7. I'm going to say that one goes 7 as well. And like, it seems like a typical kind of cop-out answer because you have two really good teams that should not be playing each other in the first round. Like, absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I'll say the Avs get it done in 7 games.
Okay. I'm right there with you with Colorado. I love this team. Marty Necas has fit in beautifully after that midseason trade, shipping out Mikko Rantanen, which shocked the entire hockey world. They picked up Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle at the deadline. Down the middle, they're so good. Mackenzie Blackwood has solidified their goaltending. Dallas, this is just rough, man. You lose Robertson, Heiskanen, who the hell knows when he's going to play in this series. Those are two of your best players. They are getting Tyler Seguin back, who's missed like half the season with an injury. But this is tough, man. This Colorado team, kind of like the Leafs, I think they're peaking at the right time. They're top 5 in goals for per game and goals against per game since the Four Nations. I love this team. I think they get through this series. I'm going to say you know what? I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to say Avalanche they do this in 5 games.
Whoa, I like it.
Yeah, I think I don't know. And Dallas, Lepore, they've lost 7 in a row to finish out the season. Isn't that crazy? 7-game losing streak right now to end the season.
Well, that's gotta be. You mean the Leafs last year was at 4 in a row, and we thought that was bad. I feel better about it now.
Yeah, pretty wild. All right, only 2 more series to get to. Next up, let's go Golden Knights Wild. Who do you like here?
Vegas is too good. Like, I like the Wild, and I think I think they're a team they're always that team I think can do damage. Like they're good enough to beat people, and they seem to play like the right playoff way. But I think it's a really bad matchup for them. Vegas is like too big, too fast, too deep, too experienced. I'm gonna say Vegas in 6 games. You know what? Let's make it 5. Vegas in 5.
Yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights, they're a loaded roster. One thing I will say about Minnesota is that their two best players missed half the season, Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek. They're now back
Yeah.
in the lineup. And with those two in the lineup, they're a much better team. So I do think that if they can kind of figure things out and get rolling, they could extend this series maybe further than people think, but I just think like those guys have come back into the lineup so late in the season. Again, I'll go back to the thing I said. I hate when teams have a negative goal differential at 5-on-5, and that's also the case with the Wild, -7 at 5-on-5 this year.
Mm.
This Golden Knights team, they've been here, done it. They're going to get the job done. And, despite what I said about Minnesota and everyone being healthy now, I think Vegas bounces them in 5. I'm being very aggressive with some of my
You are. I like it. You're being very aggressive. Drama.
All right, so before we get to our cup picks, we're going to close it out with Oilers Kings. The Oilers have bounced the Kings 3 years in a row in the first round. They are favorites heading into this series. Slight favorites, -119 at the time of recording. Is this the year that the Kings finally slay the dragon, or do the Oilers knock them out again, Lepore?
I want to pick LA so bad, Bruno. I want to pick LA so bad, but I can't. I'm gonna have to go Edmonton. It's just that thing. I think they're gonna. I think McDavid and Draisaitl are gonna turn it on, and I think they'll kind of morph into a different team and surprise people. And it's kind of like that Carolina thing where like everyone's counting out Edmonton and forgetting like, no, this team's been around for a while and they're really good and they have a super high ceiling. I will say Edmonton takes it, and I will say I'm heartbroken to see my LA Kings lose this series in 6 games.
So people know that I used to call the Oilers frauds, which they used to be complete frauds when everyone thought they were Stanley Cup contenders and they would just lose in the first round, very similar to the Leafs. Then they turned things around. And as you know, I jumped on the Oilers bandwagon over the last couple of years. But that's not the case right now. I am totally off this Oilers team. I don't like how they're playing. Matthias Ekholm is going to miss the entire first round, which I think is a very big loss and very underrated loss. I know he's not McDavid and he's not Draisaitl and he's not Evan Bouchard, but that's a huge loss for Edmonton. And I really like how the Kings have been playing this year. They've been excellent at 5-on-5. They actually have the best 5-on-5 goal differential in the NHL, the best home record in the NHL this season, 31-5-4 on home ice. So you're telling me I'm getting the best home team in the league who has home ice advantage, and they're actually underdogs in this series. I think the Kings should be slight favorites in this series. I know I've been going to a bunch of underdogs. Like last year, we saw all the favorites hit, all the chalk hit in the first round. I've been going to a lot of underdogs this year. I think the Kings are finally going to slay the dragon. I also think there's a big mismatch in net. Stuart Skinner has been awful this season for Edmonton. Darcy Kemper's been really good. He's been one of the best goalies in the league this year. The Kings are just like a very sneaky, like deep team. They don't have like a ton of high-end talent. Like obviously McDavid and Draisaitl are better than any forward on the Kings. And McDavid and Draisaitl could easily just say, I don't give a shit. We're just going to win this series by ourselves. And that's why I think they're still favored in this series. But like you look at even like Andrei Kuzmenko, who they got at the trade deadline, 17 points in 21 games for the Kings since the deadline. Like they got a sneaky deep roster. I think they slay the dragon, Lepore. I'm going to say the Kings win this series in 6 games.
Bruno, I said I really wanted to pick LA, and now it's like I feel bad about it. And I think you convinced me that the Kings are going to win.
You can change your mind. You're free to change your mind.
Again, all these series, man. So funny how hockey works. Like it's not like this with other sports where it's like brain versus gut. Again, brain is LA. It's like, yeah, totally brain, but gut. And there's a reason why Edmonton's favorite. And part of that, and even too with Toronto, why it's such a big spread is because it's Toronto and they get a lot of action. And Edmonton, people just know a lot about them. And I'm sure a lot of people bet on the Oilers because of the McDavid factor a lot and the popularity. But yeah, I mean, I'll stick with my pick, but like I don't feel good about that one. Like I said, I don't feel good about that one at all.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like in the back of your head, it's like, man, McDavid and Draisaitl could both put up like 15 points in 6 or 7 games, and next thing you know, Edmonton's just back on track. But they just have not been. Another thing, Lepore, again, I keep harping on this stat. Edmonton had a -5 goal differential at 5-on-5 this season. Last year, they were +40 at 5-on-5.
Well, yeah, last year, because 2 years ago, when people were saying, oh, they had a chance to win, they were not good at 5-on-5. As I mentioned, how when like Vegas beat them. And then last year they turned it around. So it was really scary. And then, yeah, now they've adjusted back the other way again. So they're a weird fucking team.
Yeah.
Man.
And like Hyman hasn't had nearly as good of a season.
Well, fuck, shots stopped going off his face, I guess. Jesus,
yeah, he's
luck ran out.
30 tap-ins a foot away from the net.
How many goals did he finish with this year?
27, I believe.
27.
And I think he had what, like 54 last year or something.
56? Like 56?
Yeah, it was something in the 50s.
Something crazy, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I like it, man. We kind of been on the opposite side of the fence for a lot of these series, which I know,
crazy.
Love.
It's very rare.
So before we close this thing out, give me your official Stanley Cup pick. You could even give me a matchup if you want. You give me a matchup. You can give me just your pick to win it all. Where's your head at right now?
Still gonna, like I said, I'm still gonna stick with Colorado. I've been flip-flopping in the East. I'm gonna go like crazy here. I'm gonna pick. I think a lot depends on the East and like what the series go. Like if Tampa gets through the first round, it could be Tampa. Like I feel that way. But they gotta get past Florida, and that's where it gets sketchy. I will say the winner of that series. I'll say the winner of that series ends up in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, you know what, Lepore? We've disagreed a lot throughout this podcast, but we're on the same page with Colorado. I think Colorado's the best team in hockey. I love how they've been trending since the Four Nations. They are completely dialed in. You could say maybe the one weak point is Mackenzie Blackwood because he kind of has been struggling down the stretch, and he can have like weird weeks where he just like looks bad and then weeks where he's just like shutting everybody out. So a little bit of volatility with Blackwood, but they're just such a loaded team. I think they're catching a break here with the injuries to the Dallas Stars. So I think they get through Dallas. I think they get through either Winnipeg or St. Louis in round 2. So I like them to win the cup. In the East, I really believe, and call me a Leafs homer and say I'm crazy. I think either the Leafs or the Lightning are probably going to represent the East in the cup final.
Yeah, again, I'll go back to it. If I was someone who wasn't a Leafs fan living far away, I think I'd be picking Toronto. Just because like how it's lining up, it's like, okay, well, the road, they finally won a division. They have home ice advantage against a team that's new to the dance in the playoffs. People are expecting Tampa and Florida to be a war, and none of the other 4 teams scare me.
And that's the thing, Lepore. Like the East is just, there's just something about it this year where it's just not that good. It's
because nobody believes. The big thing is it's at the top, right? Like nobody believes in Washington, right? Whereas like in the West, like all those teams like you think can do it. No one believes in Washington, and no one's going to believe in Toronto because they have no reason to. So right off the bat, the top 2 teams don't have a lot of faith. And then you go down.
Carolina, like I don't like Carolina.
Yeah,
either.
Again. So
yeah,
but the East was bad. The East is bad across the board. Like matching up the conferences based on points, like first place points, second place points, all the way down to 8th. Like the West was ahead, man. Like it is a stronger conference.
Yeah, it really does feel like, either the Leafs, Lightning, or Panthers will probably be the representative of the East in the Cup final. Again, I could be totally wrong on the Panthers. Maybe they figure it out on the fly here and they just go back to being the Panthers for the last 2 years. But I honestly, I think that those are the three best teams in the East. I don't believe in Washington. I don't believe in Carolina. I don't believe in like the Habs making a run. Maybe I think that they can upset Washington, but I don't think they're going to the Cup final. I think this is a year that it's the running joke. It's like, this is our year. The Leafs really could make the Cup final this year. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to say Colorado, Toronto Cup final, and the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup.
And we lose in heartbreak. Funny thing is though, right? Okay. And again, that Montreal thing, let's say they do beat Washington. I'm fucking picking them against Carolina or New Jersey if they're able to knock out Washington. Like, I'll ride the train at that point. Now you're in the conference final.
Can you imagine it's a Habs
Montreal,
Leafs
Toronto
conference final?
But you know what, Bruno. Again, as a Leafs fan who lives in the city of Ottawa, there would be nothing better and nothing more serendipitous that if the Leafs won the Stanley Cup, they knocked out both Ottawa and Montreal on the way. So maybe that's pretty sweet. Maybe that's how it'll all come together for the blue and white. I don't know.
Come on, Leafs. Just end it all. End all the bullshit this year. All the jokes, the curse. I know they technically broke the curse when they got through the Lightning a couple of years ago, but this team is still cursed. I don't care what anyone says.
Of course they are.
So let's just slay all the demons this year. Let's go on a run. Let's give the fans what they've been waiting for. All right.
Give those fans who are paying $2,000 to sit in the 100s something to cheer for.
Such a joke. And that's another thing. Like, Leaf fans are gonna flood that building in Ottawa, man. Like, there's gonna be Leaf fans galore in there.
It kind of sucks. It kind of, if I'm a Sens fan, your team finally makes it, and you're gonna go to your first playoff game in a long, long time, and it's just gonna be blue jerseys everywhere. Like that sucks for them. Yeah, I love it too. Oh, trust me, I fucking love it. But
that's got to be so rattling. You make the playoffs for the first time in 8 years, and like 50% of your building is Leaf fans. I can't wait.
If they're lucky, 50%.
I can't wait to see that crowd in Ottawa, man, for Game 3.
Yeah,
all right,
it's fun.
That's gonna do it for episode 166 of the Gluttons for Punishment. I can't even say the name of our podcast, for the Gluttons for Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. As always, whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener and you really enjoyed this episode, it would do us wonders if you give us a 5-star rating and review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please consider smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment down below with your Stanley Cup pick and your predictions for the first round of the playoffs. We would love that. And ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right. Enjoy round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Go Leafs, go. And we will chat very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.